Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome co-founders Peeta Planet, Mohammed Parham Alawati and Payman Parham Alawati.
Hello everyone, my name is Payman Parham Al-Awadi and this is my brother Mohammed. We are from the United Arab Emirates and we produce and host a social media driven travel show called Peeta Planet. We're very privileged because we get to travel around the world and we meet some of the most inspiring young thought leaders of our generation. We actually use travel as a tool, a medium to create communities, and we connect people who have amazing ideas with others who can possibly help them bring those ideas to life. We call this social travel. Today, our show is one of the most watched shows in the Middle East region, and we broadcast into 50 million homes. We're two kids from Dubai, and I'm not sure how we got here, but it's thank you. It's really an honor to be part of the Clinton Global Initiative this year, and an honor really to meet all of you.
So I wrote a little something before coming here, and then I scrapped it on the plane because I think I came up with something a little bit better. So bear with me if it's bad. I'm impulsive like that. Throughout our history, there have been many incredible developments that have impacted our lives. The internet and social media are two of them. As social networking grows and knowledge becomes accessible to anyone with an internet connection, more and more people want to participate in determining their future, our future. I don't mean this just in the context of government elections. Social media users want to participate in everything from your product development to your supply chains. One particularly important area they want to influence is human development. To explain this as a new phenomena attributed to the growth in social networking would not paint a complete picture. You see, even in ancient times, tribes, clans, and communities came together to discuss the factors that influenced their lives, and then together they impacted change. To overcome adversity, collaboration had to be embraced. Today, new tribes are emerging. It's the social tribes who are impacting change, not just offline, but online. One where passports, skin color, race, ethnicity, and religion are no longer the factors that distinguish them. Today's social tribes are bound by a common belief, or common beliefs. We believe that this is impacting urban cities in a beautiful way and turning them into labs of innovation. The lines between government and civil responsibilities are becoming blurred. The question is, how should we address it? Do we redraw these lines, or do we embrace this movement of government, private, and civic collaboration? Our amazing guests today are the products of these blurring lines. So today we hope to inspire a new approach in supporting their commitments. One that doesn't categorize engagement based on traditional roles and responsibility, but on the notion that anyone can play a role in bettering people's lives across the world. Today in this room, we are one tribe. Who or what we are is secondary to that. Let's forget for a moment where we are told our responsibilities lie, and instead blur the lines that separate us. We want you to think of how you can help our guests achieve their call to action. They're amazing people with an amazing story to share with you. If there's one truth we've learned from filming our show, Peeta Planet, around the world, it's that great things are achieved when empowered people collaborate to bring back dignity to other people's lives. On that note, we'd like to welcome our first guest.
I'd like to ask Mrs. Gesare Chife to join us on stage.
all the way from Nigeria.
So I'm going to take a moment, and this is probably not enough about what you do, but just in brief, Gesare Chife is the co-founder and executive director of the Dr. Aloy Gesare Chife Foundation. For the past 7 years, Chife has worked on the development and implementation of strategic plans for the Anam community in East Nigeria. Projects spearheaded include scholarship and fellowship programs for university students from the region, sustainable economic development projects such as a brick factory, an ecologic fish farm, affordable housing projects, a school, and the development of a healthcare delivery system for the Anam communities.
So, Gesare, pretend nobody's here.
Easy.
So, Africa is currently experiencing the world's fastest rate of urbanization. By 2030, over 50% of Africa will live in cities, and cities will increase their size by 85%. The Dr. Aloy and Gesare Chife Foundation made a 2012 commitment to action called Anam City, a master planned city in East Nigeria that will serve as a future agricultural production hub. So, Gesare, how is Anam City leveraging Africa's rapid urbanization as a tool to provide greater economic and social opportunities to its residents?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the CGI for the opportunity to share work with everybody. I think the Anam New City project really grew out of a problem, as most things do. We have a problem of a very large young population. I think 50% of kids in our villages are under 20 years old. You know, in overcrowded conditions, no schools, very poor healthcare system, if any. And what we observed was there was a pattern of migration from the villages into the cities, looking for opportunities. We have 21 million people in Lagos. I don't think there's room for one more. So we started to rethink the whole urbanization process and think, why not bring the city to the village? Why not create a different type of urbanization, which we could really use? You know, this could be a test bed for a different kind of development in Africa. So we decided to create an agropolitan city, which is basically a city that preserves the culture, the way of life, keeps agriculture as the main economic activity, but keeps people where they are. So you have these communities that invested a lot of time and effort in these young people. Now they don't have to leave. They can stay and serve, you know, their own communities. So that's really how it all began.
I was reading some statistics, and it says that 3% of the population in Anambra State live in Anam City, but that 70% of the food is produced out of Anam City. And also 60% of the population is involved in agriculture in that city. You guys are doing something very unique over there. What you're trying to do is you're creating a collective of smallholder farmers, and you guys are collectively looking at ways to develop that industry. So whether it's taking advantage of economies of scale or distribution or pricing, I mean, this is really like reinventing how you do farming as a city, as a collective, and not just individually, because you're much stronger that way. What are some of the lessons that you've learned, and where has this come from? Have you learned lessons from other cities that have done this before?
I think in looking at how to improve productivity with the farmers, the model that we really looked at was the cooperative unions. And this is very strong in East Africa, particularly in Kenya. And it brings together all different farmers of maybe one kind, maybe one crop, or in one area, and supports them. And what it does is you can, you know, collectively bargain for your goods in the market. You can provide them with all sorts of support systems and networks. You can bring in experts to advise them and just boost technology using boost their productivity using technology. Right now, you can imagine with only traditional methods of farming, this 3% of the state is providing 70% of the state's food. I mean, that's really staggering in my mind. Just imagine what they could do if they were just supported a little more. And those are the types of partnerships we're seeking, is to learn new ways to farm, to get them together, to be able to maybe process their products a little bit to increase their value. So that's where I got the...
So not a lot of people know this, but after you made your commitment to action, Anam City was struck by severe floods. So that kind of set back the developments by several months. But there's a happy ending, because just recently, this month, you're finally opening Anam City's first clinic and school, and you've added a bunch of housing units as well, green housing units. So how will providing these essential services change the community and provide greater opportunities for all its residents?
I think with every hardship is an opportunity. When the flood happened, it was really devastating. 5 months underwater, the entire community, 50,000 people were displaced. Very little help came in from outside. But we were able to pull everybody together. The community is very resilient. And I think there are the obvious opportunities where, like jobs, building the new city, construction jobs, jobs in the school. But there's the other effect of now this community for the first time has a really good healthcare system right where they live. They don't have to travel, for miles just to go for a prenatal checkup. They're going to have a very high quality education system. And one of our key goals is to expose the little kids to technology from a very young age, to put computers in the hands of 4- or 5-year-olds so that they can really get comfortable with it. Right now, there's such a divide between what happens here and what's happening in rural Africa. So those are the opportunities we think will come to the Anam people.
Can we put it into perspective as well? Not having these clinics, what is the impact of that? What has been happening?
Oh, there's been a lot of very high infant mortality rates, just from lack of prenatal care, lack of catching problems before they become too severe. Kids are graduating from universities who can barely write an essay. The standards are so low. Just a lot of social and economic problems.
Yeah. On that note, we were talking earlier on, and you said that you choose a group of students and you actually pay for their way through university, so a scholarship. But then what you found was when they reached a university level, their reading and writing level, is just not at the right level.
We had graduate students that were writing, they had to be heavily edited when they were writing for our blogs. So we thought, why are we paying to send them to schools? And then this is what's happening. So we decided, why not just start the schools and, improve the quality right from the beginning. So it's almost like reversing the problem and starting from the beginning.
The foundation.
Yeah.
Gesare, I'd love to take this opportunity now to go to our Skype feed. We're going to Skype in back to Nigeria, East Nigeria, Anam City. We've got Emmanuel on the line with us. Emmanuel, can you hear us?
Sure.
Awesome. Emmanuel, I'm going to just give a very short introduction, and then I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more about what you do. Mrs. Gesare tells us you do quite a bit on the ground as the project coordinator. So, and you've done amazing work with the flood and just rebuilding the city after the flood.
Yeah.
So we'd love to hear a little bit about what you do on the ground. So you're the mover, you're the shaker.
Well, like you said, like my community channel, we are into rebuilding the city after the flood. We do a lot of those construction work, making sure that all the people are taken care of, all the business people, to be on healthcare, education, just like So that's what we are doing here.
You guys are doing an amazing job. I mean, we were talking behind the stage about what really went into coming out of this major disaster. So
yeah. We said it's a flood, but it wasn't just a flood that lasted 1 or 2 days.
We were underwater for 5 months. We're talking about a lot of villages underwater for 5 months, and those who didn't have anywhere to go were stuck.
Gesare, you can jump in wherever you like, but Emmanuel, a question for you. How important is the Anam City development to the people and to the community over there? How does it impact them? How do they feel about it?
Right. The other people, they feel better about the activities of the foundation because we've gone a long way to selecting them in our way. During the flood, we did a whole lot to help them. Now, we show the resilience of the Anam people, you know, with very short period of time, everybody was evacuated from the disaster zone and taken to safety to reach Japan through the effort of the foundation, through provision of food and things. He was the means of the transportation at that period. So that was what the foundation did, you know, for the community, and they are very grateful for that.
Fantastic, Emmanuel.
Sorry, you want to add anything to that?
No, I just think that the Anam people are very resilient people, but they really do need help. We need partnerships with sustainable building technologies, with farming, any farming techniques, or any organizations that can come and help us to farm better, particularly fish farming and with crops. So we would really like to form partnerships.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about it. I'll be honest. We had a conversation backstage, and we told Gesare, I mean, this is your opportunity. You know, you have 1,000 people stuck in this room, and all the doors are locked. This is your moment. Ask, what do you need? What do you need from the people in this room?
Solar equipment, partnerships for any kind of new sustainable building technologies that are out there, help with farming, especially, like I mentioned, fish farming consultation. If you have an idea, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. If it works for you, bring it to us and we'll do it.
I mean, you're part of the CGI, and there's been a lot of investment in Anam City and on the scholarships and whatnot. So where's that money coming from right now?
Currently, just from our own businesses. Any profit we make, we push it into the foundation. But if business is down, you know, the funds are drying up. And in order to scale up, we just have to have partnerships. We can't do it on our own.
Sorry, why do you do what you do? Why are you doing this?
Because somebody has to. I mean, if you see these kids with malnutrition, you see these kids who are going, carrying their little plastic chairs to school because they don't have furniture in their school. How can you not do anything, you know? I think you have to. You have to.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. You're a great job.
So, the Clinton Global Initiative has done Skype calls before, possibly on a smaller level. Today, we're actually going to do it on a much larger level. We just did a Skype call into Nigeria, and now we're about to go into a full-blown Skype call with our next guests. So I'd like to take this opportunity to, there we go, there they are. So David Hertz, how are you? And Uridéia, how are you guys?
What up, Brazil?
Thank you, yeah.
So do you guys just see the two of us, or are you guys seeing the 1,000 beautiful people sitting over here and listening to you?
Or do you see two beautiful people sitting over here watching you?
Actually, we're seeing ourselves. Now we can see you guys.
I'm wearing my best dress.
You look great.
Thank you. David, I'd like to just take a quick few moments to introduce you. David Hertz is the founder and CEO of Gastromotiva. David Hertz founded Gastromotiva in 2006 and currently serves as CEO. Gastromotiva is the first socio-gastronomic organization in Brazil that uses the potential and responsibility of gastronomy to generate empowerment and social awakening. Through peer-to-peer education, it trains underprivileged people on becoming professional cooks and food mentors. And Uridéia, who's sitting right next to him, is student number 1. And today also a part of the business that you've built, David.
So as a testament to how much Brazilians love food, the food and beverage industry accounts for 9.3% of the country's GDP and is one of the largest employers in its city. Gastromotiva is the first Brazilian organization to harness the love of food into employment and educational opportunities for low-income youth. So, David, why did you choose food as the currency for community change?
Well, first of all,
I just want to share how honored I am just to be here. We are all of us really honored to be part of this commitment. And I'm happy we're all over lunch because I think you can grasp much more connected to our cause. For me, cooking, is an important human activity. It's about love, it's about sharing, it's about people. When we eat, we get something that gets common to all of us. We get to understand one another, we get connected to the people, to the histories, but much more than that. It nurtures our soul and body. To tell you why we got connected to this and why I chose food, I want to bring one story to all of you. In 2009, we were already doing our vocational training program. I met Diego Santos. Diego was 20 years old, but he has been working since he was 14 to generate all the income to his family. He was just unemployed from the supermarket he was working with, but we selected him because of his passion and his will to change. At Gastromotiva, we just don't teach only culinary skills. We try to get our students to really understand the connections between man and nature, the region of the ingredients, the importance of health, our life that comes from food, and how the value chain affects our lives. And Diego really got connected to this concept, like so many others Gastromotiva students. He started to work in a restaurant, an organic restaurant, and he became an educator in our program. By that, he pursued his apprentices and he got into university, got an MBA on gastronomy science. He's right here, and he's just with and he's just being selected to do a course in Italy in the Slow Food University.
Oh my God,
and he's going to
Okay, now we believe you. Now we believe you.
Story about life skills, empowerment, self-confidence. We want to generate active citizens. We already achieved 1,200 people in Brazil. So that's the power of gastronomy, social gastronomy.
So, David, you started Gastromotiva in 2006 in Sao Paulo, and then you expanded to Rio de Janeiro in 2013. And at the CGI Latin America in 2013, you said that you would expand to El Salvador and also try to get in more students in Sao Paulo. How have you leveraged the cities to really create more impact and help you scale?
Food is about passion. You see all these students working, it makes a real change. We have, over the years, increasingly demands for chefs, from restaurant owners, from foundations that want to replicate our model. We chose Salvador, but its culture, heritage, and also the best people that we found there. We already started our activities in Salvador, so we are reaching that commitment, but we are trying to see how we can increase our public impact in cities like Rio and Sao Paulo, who already are. So I want to also bring here two examples. The first one, which is really important for our methodology and how we replicate, is, as you mentioned, we use peer-to-peer education. We use that to really generate mass-scale healthy workshops. And this year we were able to achieve already reach 30,000 people. Can you imagine that all of these students who are here with me, we have others more who couldn't be with us, while they study, they go to their communities and they replicate what they learn. The other thing that I think it's too important is how you take this methodology to other publics. How do you take to immigrants that arrive in Brazil? But 4 years ago, we decided to take this to prisons, to female prisons. How to adapt this to inmates so when they get out of prison, they feel empowered to go look for a job. So 4 years ago, we started this with the public sector and with the chefs most of you must know, Alex Attal. And we were able to turn this into a public politics this year. And I want to share with you Lucimara, who is just here with me. She's been on and off prisons for 12 years. For 3 times she came back there. But now she really took the idea, the chance to really take care of her life, and she's working with us. So you have to do public policies to change this, to make this real as a movement, to scale up in all these cities.
Yeah. You know, yeah.
Thank you.
David, it was just a pure coincidence, but we featured one of your graduates in one of our episodes on Peeta Planet, and she went on to start Favela Organica.
Regina Celli.
Regina Celli.
Oh,
Yeah. What a small world. But we also were lucky to have Uridéia over there, who went from being a graduate of Gastromotiva to an employee of your organization. And I want to ask you, Uridéia, how did becoming a peer educator change the way you viewed your city and fellow residents, you know, after having, you know, these people believe in you and invest in you?
Eu aprendi a fazer escolhas, tomar decisões. Eu me descobri um ser humano com maiores responsabilidades e com vontade de mudanças.
Well, I just tried here. I feel I was empowered to make better choices. I found out I'm a woman with great responsibilities and urge to change the community I live in.
É muito gratificante saber que, como educadora, eu posso inspirar pessoas que moram em comunidades a mudarem de vidas, a mudarem suas expectativas e perderem seus medos e se tornarem cidadãos.
Well, very grateful to know that as an educator, I can inspire people from the favelas to lose their fears, to have better perspective, and to help them to become citizens.
That's awesome. It's amazing. I love the look on your face, you know, when she said that, David, and the smile, you know. You're a big part of, you know, what's happened, obviously. Another question that I have is, one of the key links, you know, with skill development and employment is the employer. At the end of the day, you're going to train people and you want them to have jobs. So I know one of your targets is to make sure that 80% of your 400 students actually end up having jobs. And you are very aggressive in terms of speaking to a number of different restaurants and restaurant operators to make sure that that happens. How are you leveraging this private partnership or private-public partnership to get to that stage?
Well, thank you for this question. I think, you know, I always knew that building lasting longer relationship would get us here. That's where we want to get. You know, we also knew we couldn't do this alone. We had to inspire the market, the restaurant market, the catering business to also generate impact within this business. So we always try to create strong alliances. Just to put in numbers, nowadays in Brazil, we have over 70 restaurants that engage in the program. They also fund the program, which is like helping Gastromotiva with at least $100 a month, which is the cost of our trainee. But they become much more than that. First, they come because they want the professionals we have, that we help them to develop. But then they become part of the social gastronomic movement and get engaged. That's how we took our program to a prison, because chefs want to get engaged with their causes. You know, another example that I can give, and all of you can relate, this year we had 2 international restaurants from New York doing benefit dinners for us. One is the #1 restaurant in New York called the 11 Madison Park, and the other one is the Fat Radish. And together, with the support of Brazil Foundation, they helped us to raise money enough to fund 100 trainees in Rio de Janeiro. Can you imagine that? 2 nights, we're able to fund 100 trainees in Rio. And the way we do, we have our facilities helping. We do this with laureate universities. They have the facilities. And because with them, we can bring their skills, talents, and dreams and match with the market needs. So that's what I want everybody to get this, how important is this partnership with not-for-profit who send us their best trainees, universities, the private sector, and the public sector, to reach every time more people and help public politics to really work.
Thank you very much, David. David, we're out of time, but I want to give you the opportunity to say one last thing very, very briefly. So since you've already achieved your commitment to CGI, what's next? Very briefly, very quickly.
Well, you know, I'm one person with one dream in one country, but I want to reach 1 million people. We have countries and chefs and cities really wanted to be part of it, but we need more people with us. I want you, that is in the audience, to join us, to grow this as a social gastronomic movement. Be part of Lucimara, of Diego, be part of this movement, and help us this really to take all over the world how social gastronomy can improve lives.
You hear that, people?
Everyone there, you know, we have some people who really know to Alexandra from the Fed Ready. She's on the audience. Please talk to her, talk to us, be part of this with us.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, David, Uridéia, the team.
Thank you to the team from
Thanks for letting us tell your story today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye. And on to our next guests, and it would probably take a number of pages to talk about everything that they've done. I'm going to do it very brief from here, and I'm going to ask them to take over when they get on stage. It gives me great honor and pleasure to introduce Mr. Gary White, the co-founder and CEO of Water.org, and Mr. Matt Damon, also the co-founder of Water.org. Pleasure. Pleasure.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
So if you guys would allow me just to say a couple of words that I have over here, and then we can go straight into our questions. So Water.org is a nonprofit organization dedicated to empowering people in the developing world to gain access to safe water and sanitation. Mr. White's entrepreneurial vision has driven innovations in the way water and sanitation projects are delivered and financed, and these innovations now serve as a model in the sector. Mr. Matt Damon is an Academy Award winner, an actor, a screenwriter, producer, and humanitarian. Mr. Damon has long been devoted to environmental and social issues, including climate change science, early childhood education, fighting hunger in America, and ending extreme poverty and mass atrocities. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Matt, I know you've never been in front of a camera, but do your best. Don't make us look bad.
You guys are doing great, by the way.
We're on every Sunday night at the...
This is your moment. The doors are locked.
I know. Give me your money, everybody. Okay, focus. I just had a cup of coffee in the back. So, sorry. So I love how both of you explain the gravity of the global water crisis and how you put into perspective using statistics. One example is a child under 5 will die every 21 seconds because of a preventable water-related disease. Think about that. I'd love for you guys to share some more of these statistics with our audience.
Yeah, I mean, that one was always the one that was kind of arrested me the most when I first heard it, and I've tried to repeat it as many places and in as many ways as I can. But yeah, I mean, the problem is just so massive. But given that we know a kid is dying every 20 or 21 seconds from something that's completely preventable. I mean, think of it in those terms. We solved this here in the West 100 years ago. Just imagine if we solved AIDS tomorrow or cancer, and in 100 years, children were still dying by the millions. It's really unconscionable, and that was really kind of what drew me to water was the enormity, water and sanitation, the enormity of the problem, and how it really underlined everything. We were talking about extreme poverty and engaging with extreme poverty. You cannot solve poverty without solving water and sanitation.
Absolutely. I mean, thank you. I have a few more stats over here, Gary. If you
you would ask me about stats, sorry.
But it affects 2.6 billion people around the world. Gary, you are.
I mean, there's still today, 740 million people who lack access to improved water supply, and 2.5 billion lacking access to sanitation. And I think that that really it's a huge issue statistically, but when you get behind the numbers and what this is really about, we're talking about, urban areas, and sanitation is just, it's unimaginable the issues that are associated with sanitation in mega cities today. And you boil it down into like human cost. And I know there was a story this summer about these two girls in India who were practicing open defecation. They had no toilet at their home. And if you're a young girl, you don't go out during the day to defecate, to relieve yourself. You wait all day. And these girls were out searching for a place to relieve themselves, and they were raped and murdered simply because they didn't have a toilet at their home. And you multiply this out by the number of people that face this issue in terms of the health issues of that. If you aren't relieving yourself, what it does to your body. Women who are carrying water their whole lives and the chronic back pain that goes along with it. And all of these economic things that contribute as well. Malnutrition and stunting. There's a lot of reports out now about we're not going to make any progress on malnutrition and stunting until we get adequate sanitation in these cities. So I just wanted to let you know that it weaves its way through everything. But on the upside, there's a lot of positive things. There are a lot of positive solutions and ways of approaching this.
Yeah, I mean, one of them is for every dollar invested in clean water and sanitation, there's a $5 to $8 return in GDP growth.
Yeah, it's just shaving huge percentages off of GDP right now, where economies could be growing. But you have to have that foundation. And for us, I think we take it so much for granted, but you can't imagine a modern city even getting to think about developing, an internet or transportation until you get water and sanitation.
Yeah, speaking of technology, there's more people in the world who have access to a cell phone than they do to a clean glass of water.
It's very interesting because, we come from a part of the world where we know the value of water because our ancestors had trouble finding water, so that value is there. And that's why, in our region, there's a lot of financial resources put behind water initiatives. But Gary, you found that, 50 to 60% of failure rate is when you don't have the user involved in implementing the solution. And that's where the water credit initiative comes into play. Tell us a little bit more about that and how that's working.
Well, again, the bad news is that there's so many people that still lack these services. The good news is that there are ways to reach them. There's never going to be enough charity in the world to make this problem go away. So we have to look at innovative and market-based solutions. And, Matt and I have traveled around a lot, in some of these slums around the world, and particularly, people we've met in India, and meeting a woman there who was paying 125% interest to a loan shark so she could just build a toilet. Other women doing the same to get a water connection. It's like, what if we could connect microfinance together with water and sanitation, because it wasn't being addressed by microfinance because it wasn't seen as income generating. So what we hope to do is nudge microfinance towards making loans so people could afford to pay to connect to a water utility or build a toilet. And now what we've done is reach over 1.6 million people with loans instead of charity. This has leveraged more than $70 million in commercial finance that comes in to fund these loan portfolios. 91% of the borrowers are women, and 99% of the loans are repaid.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's amazing.
And actually, we could say, through kind of abandoning the old direct impact model and just digging wells, and doing water credit, which Gary's being very humble. This is an idea that he pioneered, and this is really scaling now. So by the end of next year, we're at 1.6 million people that we've reached. By the end of next year, we'll be at 3 million. So it's really scaling quickly, and this is all made possible in India from this grant we got from the PepsiCo Foundation, and they've been incredible. They've been with us from the very beginning.
Matt, we read a document where you both talked about reorienting the global conversation around water stress, and you categorized them into two. So resource-constrained stress, and you cited Asia as an example, and finance-constrained stress, and you cited Africa as an example. So what are the challenges and dynamics of each, and both of you feel free to answer that.
Okay, this had flashed for a second. I'm wondering if we need to roll the video, though. Sorry, are we okay?
Oh, I didn't see that watch there.
Oh, we need to wrap.
Are we supposed to stop when it goes to zero?
I'm particularly, you know, I hosted the Jimmy Kimmel show last year, and they told me I had to be in charge of the clock, and I did such a bad job of it that in an hour-long show, I was over by a half an hour. So I'm particularly sensitive to the blinking light that says, sorry, we need to wrap this discussion.
Oh, sorry. Now I got the title of being the worst when it comes to the clock. Thank you very much for
Wait. But listen, this is an incredibly interesting and complex issue to engage with, and we don't just need money, we need brain power. So we would love if you all went to water.org and started to read about it if you're interested. There's a lot to learn. It's endlessly intriguing and complex and fun to engage with, and there are real solutions out there, very real solutions that can help a lot of people very soon if we just engage with this.
Matt, and just very quickly, the issues in India, and just a quick note about your work in India as well, just before we wrap.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're through this grant with PepsiCo Foundation, we were targeted to hit 800,000 people, which is essentially, really quickly, I'll say, the philanthropic cost per person reached is $25 to give somebody clean water for life if you're doing kind of classic well systems. We've driven that cost down to between $6 and $7 through these loan programs. So you're getting much more bang for your buck, and we've already hit our 800,000 in India, and we still have another year to go.
Well, and the collaboration that's gone along with that, so with PepsiCo kind of paving the way, and then we then have other foundations, you know, like IKEA Foundation, MasterCard, Caterpillar, they've all then followed along behind this to add more capital to it to expand the model even further. We think we could reach hundreds of millions of people.
And we could reach McKinsey did a study we could definitely reach hundreds of millions of people, and the president has been great. I mean, when we talked to him, to President Clinton a few years ago, he just said, just keep running those numbers up. Just run them up. And he was right. That's exactly what we need to do to prove the concept, to get you all to understand that this really works, because that's when people engage, and we must move to the CGI video now.
At the 2010 annual meeting, we focused on market-based approaches, on how people could harness local markets to do important things like protecting their environment. The Nature Conservancy and the Inter-American Development Bank made a commitment that year to expand on a model called water funds and take it to 5 communities in Latin America. Since then, they've surpassed that goal with great success. This is the story of how communities can be engaged in protecting their water sources and their environment for the benefit of all.
El agua proveniente de las montañas de la cuenca del río Amaime es nuestra principal abastecedora para el riego del cultivo de la caña de azúcar. Para nosotros es de gran importancia apoyar a las asociaciones y al Fondo de Agua para la Vida para la conservación y preservación del recurso en la parte alta.
Water Fund is essentially a financial mechanism to protect our watersheds. Large water users located downstream in the watershed invest in the upper part of the watershed to make sure we're going to have regular, high-quality water.
El Fondo de Agua, si bien es cierto, fue apoyado y creado por nuestra asociación. ¿Qué esperamos conseguir? 35.000 hectáreas de bosques restauradas y conservadas, un poco más de 100.000 familias impactadas.
Cuando se crea el fondo vemos una oportunidad de entrar a trabajar en las partes altas de la cuenca. Acá se cultiva banano, café. Ese es el objetivo de estas franjas, pues tener una ganadería mucho más amigable con el entorno.
This is a fence to protect the river area, so people and cows don't cross the line, okay, to protect the natural life. We have lost many important species for the river. We are recovering that.
el fondo de agua, me ayudaron con los arbolitos y todo. La que está ahí, la mata de aguacate, esta es la mata de café. Ahí nos dieron una explicación, pues que los de los árboles nos servía para eso, que había que, porque tumbábamos los árboles, se secaba el agua. Podemos ayudar.
Right here we measure the water level and the sediments in the water by 2 sensors. Then I gotta collect the information.
Estamos trabajando a mirar a futuro si realmente lo que estamos haciendo es lo correcto o si no, qué otras acciones debemos de emprender.
We are looking to expand this model to global scale by our Water Risk Initiative.
Que si trabajamos en pro de este recurso, podemos garantizar o contribuir a la sostenibilidad, no solamente de esta industria, sino a la sostenibilidad de toda una región.
Unos árboles de aguacate me han servido pues para el suelo y también para alimentarnos y para vender, para tener algunos ingresos también para la familia y que nos diera la vida el agua también, porque sin agua no hay vida.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back President Bill Clinton.
That was interesting, wasn't it? I want to go to work for those guys. I'm about to bring out the president, but I want to start by thanking him for being with us during what is a very busy week every year, the opening of the UN, but because of all the turmoil in the world, is a particularly busy week this year. He's been part of our annual meeting every year since 2008, and I'm very grateful for that. It reflects his lifetime commitment to and belief in citizen activism. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was honored to join the president at the White House to celebrate the 20th anniversary of AmeriCorps. It was one of my proudest achievements because all those 900,000 young people who've done that are now out making a difference in the world like you are. An astonishing 2/3 of them chose a career in some form of public service, although not all governmental, a lot of it was NGO work. So I'm grateful to him for continuing that movement. In far too many places around the world, people are still not free, however, to join together to do this kind of work. And that reminds us of the importance of government, at least empowering people to do the kinds of things that you are advocating and spending your lives on. Every successful country needs a smart government, a strong private sector, and a vigorous civil society. I know from Hillary's time at the State Department that the president has always supported this and has done what he could to support people like you from his current position. So for many reasons, I'm especially grateful to him for being here, for continuing to believe that as he strives to stop bad things from happening around the world, the rest of us are supposed to do more to make good things happen. So please join me in a warm welcome to President Barack Obama.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Please have a seat. Well, good afternoon, all of you. I was just discussing with President Clinton that if Chelsea begins delivery while I'm speaking, she has my motorcade and will be able to navigate traffic. Because actually it's pretty smooth for me during the week. I don't know what the problem is. Everybody hypes the traffic, but I haven't noticed. Always wonderful to follow Matt Damon. I saw people trickling out after he was done. These are the hardcore policy people who decided to stay for me. I want to thank President Clinton for your friendship and your leadership and bringing us together as only he can. Bill first asked me to come to CGI when I was a senator, and as president I've been proud to come back every year. As president, Bill asked Americans to serve their country, and we recently celebrated